is going to be a long one, don't get me wrong, but hopefully I'll soldier through. I'm checking out at a self-checkout, and a clearly homeless man with a bunch of junk food stands at the checkout beside me. A rainbow of language erupts from him, and the security guard walks up. "Excuse me, sir, what's wrong?" "I can't buy the red because the orange machine won't yellow my green card. I can't blue pay for this in my indigo laundry. I'm still in this violet." The security card basically just says, "But please don't," and the homeless dude walks out with the food. And I watch him as the security card just like stands there. And I look back at like $20 of food I'm purchasing, and I'm like, and I have a thought. But, being a good law-abiding citizen, I then pay with my card and walk out with my food. So it's kind of weird that there are like no consequences for stealing from a grocery store. I mean, I guess technically there are in the long run because they rack up times you've stolen and like the amount or something like that. But at least in that case, the homeless guy was just like, "I'm taking this." And the security guard was like, but no. And he didn't do anything. Which I'm wondering, like, what's the point of having a security guard then? Like, if your security guard is literally going to have the homeless dude announce he is stealing it and do literally nothing. Oh well. It doesn't make sense, but that's fine. That happened. So, this time, during this live email, I'm going to try something new. And basically the situation is thus. I have voice typing, which, in fact, is easier than real typing. Therefore, I'm going to try using voice typing to write the majority of this email and then come back through, which is what I'm doing right now. Well, now I'm, voice narrating it. But, now when I wrote it, and then edit it to make sure it actually says what I wanted to say because, sometimes it doesn't. It's like, I did not understand you, which is fair because not many people do understand me. So, you know what? Understandable. So, yeah, basically the conversational style of my live emails is pretty conducive to voice typing. So I was like, talking is easy. Typing is still easy, but less easy. Therefore, I will do that which is more easy because it's easier. And that was my pretty big brain move right there. So we're going to give it a shot. After finishing my last live email, I played Minecraft with the Ratchet Christie group because we had our weekly Minecraft event thing, so that was good. However, we gave Katie God powers, aka creative mode, and I'm not sure how I feel about that because historically, whenever you give Katie God powers, she uses those God powers against me. So I'm inherently wary of any time we give Katie power, like game or no. I mean, I would like to say that, like, I could trust her, would not use her powers against me, but I can't. I mean, honestly, like, it's painful. Also, I cannot apparently write XD in these anymore, because every time I say XD, Jake's like, XD, and it hurts my soul.
Big oof.
It's like scraping nails down a chalkboard. So bad. So, I might stop writing XD in the future because I can't deal with that. And even though Jake is not narrating this one in the end, it's still painful to even just hear him saying that in my head. So we're going to pass.
Wink.
So yeah, anyway, after bestowing upon Katie the power beyond reckoning, I watched a bit of anime and then I went to sleep. And then I started the next day reading the pamphlet. And by the pamphlet, I mean this pamphlet, which you can't see. So back up, there's this guy, or at least there was this guy, Ratchet Christie, and he's basically like a mendicant. And I mean, he doesn't like not own any possessions, but he doesn't have like a car or a house. He doesn't live anywhere, so he's pretty mendicant-y. So yeah, interesting dude for sure. And he wrote this pamphlet, which I have some pictures of, but you can't see. And basically, it's just like a cool illustrated, handwritten thing. It's very fancy. So he's writing this pamphlet about why he thinks there's good reason to believe in Christianity, and it wasn't like bad per se. It's just like the degree of knowledge I had about a year ago, so it hurt my soul a little bit, but in a little understandable way. Kind of like how like a baby duckling hurts your soul as it like tries to keep with its mother. Like you see its waddling speed, it's just not fast enough, and it keeps flying behind. You're like, I kind of want to help it, but I also kind of find its failure amusing. So the guy was like a speed waddling baby duckling. That's basically where he was at. So anyway, I spent a bit of time reading through his pamphlet and critiquing it for like an hour, and then I realized critiquing the whole thing was actually going to take so much time, and it would just be way more efficient to talk through it with him. So I stopped critiquing it through text because I was like, painful. Again, it wasn't like trash reasoning, it just wasn't great reasoning. It was so-so. So yeah, I did that, and then I went to Neil's house, wherein we did things, and I think we started off the afternoon playing Frisbee because it was just such a nice day. Oh my gosh, it was beautiful. And the trouble with that friend group, though, is it's remarkably non-athletic. Okay, well, maybe not remarkably, I don't know, maybe they're just below average. But regardless, my athleticism is high by comparison. In that group, I'm like the jock, and I feel cool. So, yeah, we did that outdoor thingies, and then I kind of destroyed everybody. And then we did a lot of Smash Bros. And Halo because those are fun games, and we just so into the night. Once I got home, I went on a run, and then I watched some JK Studios because TOC, if you do not know, kind of died, and then they reincarnated themselves, Phoenix style, and they are now JK Studios. So I watched a bit of them. And then I went to bed. The next day, I worked as usual. Nothing really abnormal happens at work, which I suppose is a good thing, but as a result, I have nothing to say about it, so, me just laboring. After work, I had school, and then I had chemistry class, and then I had homework for actually ages, which is always a big sad because homework sucks. And yeah, after that, we did a squad meetup, and then we went to go play volleyball at the park, and there was this gaggle of people, and they were like, hey, and we were like, hey, and then Karina came late, and then we just, like, chucked her on the other team. Because they were all female, and she's female, so, that's all the reason you need. So yeah, we played volleyball amongst them, and amongst ourselves, until it was dark, and then the other group disbanded, and we tried to play, like, a tidying game amongst ourselves, but it was, like, a hard fail, because, again, dark. And in case you didn't know, dark impairs your ability to see.
My logic is infallible.
So yeah, we came, we saw, and we got conquered, and then we went to Sonic and ate foods. After that, we went to Joe's house and played Munchkins, which is a decent game, but I lost horribly, so I'm kind of salty. I just wanted to make, Joe and Caleb, but mostly Caleb, not win, and upon realizing I had no chance of doing so, I decided to buff Karina at the very end, and even then, I lost. However, it was really close. So, in the end, I lost doubly, both directly and vicariously, which is really sad. So, after that, I showed everybody, well, not everybody, the squad, Katie's life update email that she wrote. So, she wrote a survey. So, Katie, Ratio Christie Katie, not Southgate Katie, because there's too many Katies, was basically like, I'm pretty sure everyone via me hates these life update emails. And I was like, I don't think you're right. I think you're the minority. So, she was like, I'll make a survey, and we'll see who's right. And then she did that. And then I was like, well, here you go, guys. This is a survey. But, yeah. The problem is she brought it into a doc, and, no one wants to actually respond to a doc, which is, kind of annoying, but true. So basically, I presented to the squad, and they were like, let's make it into a real survey. Mostly because they were bored. So Caleb basically did the whole thing, and the rest of them just kind of, reworded stuff. And it was good, and kind of funny. So that was a good activity to conclude my day. So yeah, we did that, and then the next day, I worked and listened to an actually smart dude talk about his problems with divine simplicity, and I was like, oh shoot, you're wise. And now I have to deal with that, which is great. And so I did that, and then I skipped physics class where I was supposed to go because I had college application stuff, which was more urgent. And see, there's this free application day, which is really nice because it's like, you don't pay $150. And I'm like, I consent to your terms. So once I was doing that, I was kind of like pain-brained because I had like a 3-day time frame, right, where I had to get all my college application letters in before the free application day closed. However, I needed recommendation letters. And I did not think of that before that time frame. So I was like scrambling to get recommendation letters to all the teachers I thought liked me kind of, and I was like, please help me. And so yeah, it was pretty dead. Not fun. So basically I did college application for the whole day after I'd been doing physics, and instead of doing physics, and then my brain was like, I don't want to work. So yeah, I also then exerted much brain power trying to understand the simplicity guy, and then after I did the college applications for the whole day, I then went to Ratio Christie and used even more brain power. So overall, a very brain-intensive day. And I tried to find Alan with little success due to the aforementioned brain death. But basically, we came to the conclusion that free will of the significant libertarian sort is indeed possible. Perhaps it's, a conclusion that just made sense to my tired brain, and it won't hold up in the long run. But given the causal principles advanced by the ancients and the ones who, actually started this whole debate thing, and it's been going on forever, I figured that there was no real reason to object to its possibility. Because we're like, well, it doesn't break a causal principle if those are all the causal principles, which is a question, but I'm going to assume it's correct. So I guess libertarian free will might be real. False. It's possible. I don't think free will exists. Just making that very clear. I just think it's now possible instead of being impossible. Which, to be fair, is a very big jump in the right direction if you think that's the right direction. So, if it does turn out to exist, I'll be a happy lad. And if it doesn't, then I'll just be what I am right now. So yeah, me and Joe had a conversation on the way home after that talk, and then I slept. The next day I didn't have work, which was nice, but I'll be honest, I don't remember the cause of such exclusion from duty because it just kind of happened, and I can't remember everything. So I did a bunch of homework instead, which I didn't finish until like 9 at night, and that was more than my daily desired dosage of homework. So yeah, thus to round out the night, I played Halo with Caleb because I was like, I need to murder some things down the line, and it was a good time. The next day, I got myself juiced, and which is my new favorite means of describing the plasma knitting process, because, frankly, I am literally getting juiced. My juices are being removed from me. So it makes sense. So anyway, I got juiced. I did a lot of waiting, because the juicing line was super long, and I basically made it out in time just for my physics lab. Like, I was really close. It was a pretty big sketch, honestly. Like, you can't just be like, mid-donation, okay, I misjudged how long this will take, I would like to leave now. Like, that's not how that works. So you kind of have to plan it well, and my planning was poor, because that super long line messed up everything. So yeah, I then did the physics labs, and then I got home and I did homework until everybody, namely Joe, Caleb, and I, got together and we played Brawlhalla, which was fun. The following day, I did more work and more school, and then I left class early and did some homework upon getting home, before driving to Horseshoe and engaging in a decently long stint of prayer, which I'll be honest, could have gone better. However, I did get to play some games with the gang afterwards, so that was at least redeeming. Thursday, I proceeded to be juiced some more, and then I spent some time watching anime with Grace, which was a good time to hang out with her, by the way. I then did Retro Christie, aka I played Minecraft. Sorry, false. I then did Retro Christie Minecraft, aka I played Minecraft with the core Retro Christie group, and that was fun. It was good to catch up with Katie. Plus, it's a win-win because I get to hang out with Liam simultaneously, and, Minecraft is a great game, so it's kind of like all around a good time. After that, Morgan was around, so me, Morgan, and Grace decided to hang out at Horseshoe and talk, and Ben would have joined us, but he had left for California for the last wedding, which he decided to stay around California doing things. So he stayed with our cousins for a bit, and then he went to this creator house, which sounded pretty sketchy, to be honest, and then went back to the cousins, so yeah, we hadn't seen him in a while. He wasn't there to join us. So you can hit him up if you're interested in what he did, because it was pretty interesting. And the point is that Ben was gone, so me, Grace, and Morgan, we all just kind of drove to Horseshoe, and we had a good talk. It was pretty decent. I'm pretty sure I was privy to at least 10% of what girl talk, quote-unquote, might sound like, and I was definitely, overdosed on the 10% that I endured, but the rest of it was good, the rest of the conversation. So, yeah, it was interesting at points, boring at points, but overall, decent. I then drove home and watched a bit of anime before going to sleep. The next day I went to Southgate after a bazillion years of break, and then just my luck, guess who's there? No one! See, you thought I was going to say Bob the Ancient Student one, but that is not correct. There was no one. And it was super sad because, that day, everyone either dischurched or they were gone for some reason or another. That was a legitimate excuse, and I was the only person that I cared about there. Okay, false. Maybe, Josh and Katie were there, and I guess Joe's parents were there. So it all kind of depends on how much you're, setting the bar of care. I'm obligated to care they're human, they're human, so I have to care about them that way. But I didn't, care about them. Does that make sense? If not, I'm going to keep rolling with it. The point is that no one I actually enjoyed, there we go, no one I enjoyed, no one I enjoyed a lot, was there, and that was sad. Anyway, it was a big sad, and I stuck around for the service, but yeah, I left there, and I was like, well, that was lame. And then I went to Caleb's for 15 minutes before we all, namely me, Joe, Jake, and Caleb, went on our pre-planned trip to Estes. Because, Jake said, come to Estes, and we were like, we never hang out with you. So we were like, yes. So I went and played a bit of Brawl at Caleb's house, and, it was decent. I think I got destroyed, which we don't need to talk about. And then we all drove to Estes. And I would have had D&D that time, but when Jake's like, you're coming to Estes, right? I was kind of like, well, you never invite us to anything, so I kind of have to say yes. So I ditched D&D and joined them on the long trip of death, except it wasn't actually death. It was pretty good. I mean, it was pretty small talky, and I actually tried to engage in some small talk, which was slightly painful, but Jake's a fun guy. I'll grant this. So, yeah, it was a tolerable time, and it was worth the D&D sacrifice. Oh, and man, as we drove back, it was so hard for Caleb to go the right way. Oh my gosh, he had an impressively hard time getting us home. It was kind of funny and kind of like the facepalm moment. After that, I then went and played the tail end of the D&D session with Aniu and the gang, and we're really close to the end of the campaign, so that's really exciting. At this point, our characters are so overpowered, we basically just nuke all our enemies. My wizard has so many high-level spells, it's ridiculous. And he also has 2 giant anti-meat golems, which he controls, and that's fantastic. So yeah, we've been playing this campaign for a year and a half or something? I don't know, it's been a really long time. But it's been good, so definitely props to Neo. And I love playing Thales, gotta say. He's my nerdiest level on steroids, it's fantastic. So anyway, I did that, and then we played some games afterward, which was mildly interesting. And once I got home, I read a bit of my canon book, which I'm still inching through. And then I went on a run, which was a nice change of pace. Haha, get it? Change of pace? I'm sorry, I'll stop. The next day, I had work and school, and that was a combo with a bit of extra work and school sauce. And then I did homework, and a lot of it. And then we were meeting with the squad, and we got to go out and play some volleyball. And we were like, we didn't really do this last time, because we met the random people who were just like, play volleyball with us. And we were like, yeah. So, we squatted up and we played volleyball at the Myers house, which was fun. And it wasn't just a squad, I guess, because Ben, Sam, and Seth were also there. But it was pretty squatty. And then after that, we went to the Alley Cat and we talked. And it was kind of the first time we tried to have a deep conversation as a squad. And I mean, I didn't really get that deep. I don't think anyone else really did either. But that was kind of by design, because we kind of want to save that for the actual trip itself. So it was still decent, just wasn't great. Maybe a 6 on a good time scale. So yeah, we did that, and then we're like, now we're sleeping. So I did the sleeping. The next day I had work, and then me and Joe had a conversation about how it was the case that Natural Family Planning, hereafter referred to as NFP, which is, what the smart people say. and why, contraceptives are not a bueno, morally speaking. So, at least within the Thomas Strict framework. And so after thinking about that, I figured out how and why they're distinct from contraceptives, necessarily planning. And I was like, I can explain this. And it was great. And I felt really smart. So if you're interested, you can hit me up with an email. After that conversation, I did some school in the standard manner. And then I crashed on false. Man, that's a false phrase. Joe, we are going to try twice. Are you ready for this? After that, I crashed in on a Wendy's time with Alan. No, this doesn't make any sense. Why did I write this? No cap. You know what? The point is Alan and I hung out, and it was fun. And, yeah, basically, I cashed. That's the word. I see. Okay, I cashed in on some Wendy's Alan owned me. Ha! Owned me. That's also false. That's okay.
So in order for me to edit this into a coherent statement, I would have to take words from other parts of the email and put it in. And since I don't feel like doing that for a 15-second segment, I'm not going to.
All right, basically, here's the story. Okay, so basically, we were talking on the Rational Minecraft Discord server, and Alan was like, I bet you can't find one saint that says prayer is non-propositional. And I was like, bet. And then I proceeded to find exactly and only one saint. Though, in the context, she was like, this only applies if you pray propositionally for like 24 years. But technically, she said that prayer could be non-propositional. So I won on a technicality, which means I now have $20 worth of Wendy's in cash that I can, cash out upon my request. So yeah, it's not like a victory in any sense to say for a technical one, but it's totally a victory. Anyway, that's how I, got the cashing on Wendy's thing, which resulted in me and Alan meeting at Wendy's a bit early, which is good. And we got to have a conversation. So we then went over to Ratchet Christie because there's whiteboards, and we continued it at the Alley Cat. So it was a very long, elongated conversation, but let's be honest, all our conversations are like that. The following morning, I did more work, more school, and then more homework, which was all very death. And then I got out and I prayed in my car for a while before going home and sleeping. The next day, I got juiced, and I did a physics lab, of which here's a picture. And basically, you just see a fancy wavy machine, but nothing really else. It's all interesting. And the thing about physics lab is it's not that it's hard in of itself. I mean, except for the one we did recently. Oh my gosh, it was an optics lab, and it murdered me. So hard to do. See, the problem is, I'm kind of carrying the team on the physics labs because one person, namely Omar, hardly speaks English, and he can't really write much well in English, so he can't do all that much except for maybe math. And then it's the case of Malia. She's kind of, not trying really hard. She puts in minimal effort about 93% of the time, and so she hasn't been paying attention in class. So I kind of have to be the whole brains, because she's like, well, I'm just going to take the class again anyway once I get to my real college instead of this community college, which, isn't trash reasoning. If it's the case you are really going to retake the class, then I guess you might as well not try super hard in this class as long as you don't fail. But as a result of the aforementioned facts, I'm the whole brains, and I'm basically the brawn of the operation too. So it gets kind of tiresome being a one-man army, and kind of hard, because sometimes I don't know all the secrets of the universe, and I'm confused, and then basically we're just screwed. Because last semester, if I was confused, other people would be smart. But in this case, if I'm confused, the team just rip. So, yeah. I mean, okay, Amelia is occasionally smart, but she rarely tries. So credit where credit is due, just there's not much credit due. Anyway, as a result, physics labs are kind of death, but I get it done. And I did some homework after I got done with physics lab, and then went over to Kayla's house, and we played Minecraft. And, Jezra, the leopard suited man, joined us. You remember how way back I compared Mark, the science hippie guy, to a leopard, a guy in a leopard shirt? Well, see, Jezra actually does that. At Jake's wedding party, he was in a coonskin hat, I think, and the most ridiculous shirt I've ever seen. And you know what? I don't know why, but for some reason that stuck in my head so well. Maybe I should just, be fashionably atrocious, because then I will be remembered. And to comment, okay, so, hold it. We have a tangent here, because what I realized is that as I was writing this live email, I'm like, I said the exact same thing twice. Because a week ago or so, I typed a giant block of text, and I'm going through and I'm editing it. And as I edit, I decide to engage with the standard life of being writing procedure and just write what comes to mind, because it comes to mind. So as I'm doing such, I get to the Jezra part, and then I read his name, and the whole mental tangent about how he dresses is really weird, and how I should possibly engage in the same thing to be remembered, and so forth, happened again. I didn't preview what I wrote before, but I said the exact same thing. It's kind of freaky. So either A, my thoughts are maximally unoriginal, and I'm just a complicated AI that's spitting out a response to a mental stimulus in a certain way. Or B, Jezra's clothing just so seared itself into my consciousness that I'll never be free of it, and it'll plague my nightmares for the rest of my life. So at this point, I'm going to lean toward the latter because the AI seems less plausible. Anyway, so yeah, Jezret, who's a very memorable man, joined us for some Minecraft, and then we talked a bit. And it turns out he really likes Isekai anime, which is like my genre of choice. And he actually had watched a lot of the obscure Isekai I watched, which is actually kind of cool. Though, mind you, not exactly reassuring. Because see, like, when someone like Alan, or even Joe, says, oh, I watched My Hero Academia, I'm really like, oh, good. Maybe I'm not as weird as I thought I was. But when Jezret's like, oh, Girls Who Panzer was great. And, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'm as weird as I thought I am. So, yeah. It was cool to be accompanied by another nerd who watched the weirder animes and the lower quality animes I watch. But yeah, we talked about that for a while. And then apparently he's trying to write a book, of which he proceeded to describe the plot. And now I have one more thing to say concerning that. Okay, first. As the person who was, like, obsessed with creative writing from the ages from 16 to 17, I have limited respect for anyone who's yet to finish a book. Like, don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people, and they have some really cool story ideas, but, if you never get on digital paper, then obviously it doesn't amount to anything. So I'm kind of like, I don't respect you as a writer unless you demonstrate you can actually write, not just dream a novel. So at the outset, Jezret having not completed that goal made me wary. Second, writing is super hard. And this, coming from the person who wrote 2 novels, and he put his heart and soul into that. And it turned out still to be trash. Esoteric Destiny has like an average rating of 4 among the public, and a solid 2 on the Liam scale, which is honestly a more objective scale than you might think. And I'm not even salty, because they're right. So as someone, who has actually tried to write hard, and has still failed, when someone is not passing the just a dreamer test, and they're also, like, not the kind of person you think is probably going to write well, you're like, sketch. So, yeah, the odds are like 90 to 1 that you're just a hobbyist like me if you had not passed those 2 tests, and you're just encouraged by the uncultured people around you who tell you, your writing is as good as Tolkien, and you're not. And then finally, if you're a good writer, you can instantiate your vision in words, but rarely in, like, the spoken language. Just don't give a book summary. It just doesn't work. You can't capture what you're trying to, like, do and do it well in language. Like, you can't just be like, here is my premise, and it's not going to sound good. So, yeah. Jezret failed all of my 3 legit creative writer tests, and so I mostly died inside as he told, the details of his dream novel. But hey, at least Caleb seemed genuinely interested, so someone had a good time. Anyway, I'm finally to the point in Minecraft where I might get the end, because, that's the end of Minecraft, and I kind of want to achieve something. So Joe and Caleb have been to the end and back like 7 times, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I should try and beat the game instead of just building a freakingly huge, giant chunk of obsidian that is shaped into a tower. So yeah, we'll see if that happens, but I'm not sure. The following day, I did more work, and then I did chemistry, and then I did homework, and then I played soccer because it was Friday, and it's fun, because soccer is fun. And then I hung out with Dad, which was good, and, I fulfilled my familial duties. And then we ate some McDonald's, and we played a bunch of ping pong, which Dad did unfortunately beat me soundly, and it was a big sad. I did have some comebacks, but I didn't win overall. So yeah, that was much unfortunate. And there was also this guy that randomly joined at the end, and he was pretty trash, so we kind of beat up on him. But yeah, after that, me and Grace visited the dollar store, and I dropped $10 on candy, and oh gosh, we got so much candy. I have a picture enshrining our unhealthy habits, but you can't see it. So yeah, we just ate and watched anime, and we ate a lot of candy. So, developing a healthy body and mind. The next day, I got juiced again, and at this point, I'm getting pretty close to finishing my new donor plans, because, juicing is frequent, and it pays me well. So I'm like, I'm going to keep doing it. But, as soon as my new donor plan stops, I'll get half the payment, which is kind of a big set. I then went shopping with the squad because Sydney made it a literal requirement that I have a costume. So I was like, well, now I need a costume. And of course, she told me this when the party was literally the next day. So out of options, I proceeded to call up the squad, namely Karina, because, I'm like, Karina, you can sew. You're artsy. You want to make a costume. And she was like, actually, yes. And I was like, yeah! Female friends are great. So, it turns out people that have art skills might actually be useful. So, quick tangent on this whole costume thing. It brought me to a verdict, you see. Namely, that I value art when I value art. I know, maximally insightful. So basically, what I mean is that art is not objectively valuable, but it is valuable subjectively. And therefore, I value it subjectively when it matters subjectively to me. And of course, that's obviously true. But what that means is that I might start dissing art. Well, unless I don't value it subjectively, which is almost always. So never mind. I'll probably keep, dissing art. But yeah, anyway, I'm glad Karina can art because, frankly, it was nice to have a cool costume. And you have to see this costume. It's actually so cool. Like, 100% props to her. It's actually fantastic. You do need to check it out. So yeah, apparently art is an entirely useless skill set because it made me feel cool. And I was like thankful. So, yep. She basically did all the sewing. I cut some things, but she did most of the work because I don't know how to sew. But yeah, we got that done, and then we played a bit of volleyball, and that was big fun. And then I got home, and I watched anime with Grace, and we both enjoyed it. And after that, I worked on getting scholarship stuff because I don't want to be an in-debt college person as well as a poor person. I would like to be an out-of-debt college person. The day after, I cleaned my car, and then went to New Sydney's for the aforementioned Halloween party, of which there are pictures, but you cannot see them. We painted pumpkins because Sydney made us do it, and it was a good time. We played Smash Bros. For a while, and then the squad... Oh, wait. See, the squad is now trademarked. I guess I had to give him the group because I am out of options. I'm sorry, Neo Friend Group. You are now just the group. Anyway, the group and I walked around campus while costumed, and it was quite cool. Upon arriving back, everyone talked about some stuff, and I mostly listened. But since, everyone consumed some alcohol, it was definitely an interesting conversation. The following morning, I went to work, and nothing unusual happened. Yep, that's all there is. And then I went to school, and something unusual did happen. After chem class, one of my classmates, who turned out to be a Christian, was like, "Hey, I see your custom shirts. They seem to indicate you are a person of some sort of faith. Are you a Christian?" And I was like, "Yep." And they're like, "What do you think about the problem of evil?" And I was like, "You don't know what you've unleashed." And then I proceeded to go on a long rant about the different theodicies and the differences between them and how to defend them. And only later to find out his sister had just died. So in hindsight, I realized my methodology could use a slight tweak wherein I discern if someone is emotionally bleeding out before going on my philosophical rant where I try to educate their brain. So yeah, I horribly responded to my classmates' emotional trauma, and that was a mistake. So I regret this. After that, I did homework, and then I finished anime, and I was watching that with Grace. And then I engaged in Minecraft with the standard Ratchet Christie people, which was fun, namely Liam, Katie, and I. And we had a battle, because we wanted to, and I won, because I'm better. And then we played some more Minecraft, and Brawlhalla at Joe and Caleb's house, False at Caleb's house with Joe. And that too was fun, except I lost, because I'm worse. The next day, I was like, "Hey boss, I would like to leave in 3 weeks to, go on a family vacation to Texas." And he was like, "No." Which is not usually a response you want to hear. So I was like, "But my parents already booked the tickets, and I really need to go." And he was like, "Well, then maybe you shouldn't come back." So I was like, "Ooh, that was great." So yeah, that was a love experience. And it turned out I did not get fired. He did let me go on the vacation, very begrudgingly. But the whole experience was a big sketch. So I was kind of like, ah. So yeah. After that, I got back to work, and I completed work. And then I did another species of work, namely homework, before engaging in school, during which my laptop was updated to Windows 11, which is what inspired this particular mode of writing left emails, because Windows 11 is much fancy. And it has a pretty good voice typing program, I'll be honest. Surprisingly, it's got a lot right. I then went to Ratchet Christie, wherein Alan and I tried to fix what I'm calling the atom bomb of simplicity, and here's a taste of our thought process. It's a whiteboard, you can't see it. But unfortunately, it wasn't super successful. And I'm not going to lie. So, yeah, basically the problem is hard. So Alan was like, "Here's a potential solution." I was like, "No." And then we fought. So, yeah. I do have a picture of Alan being a swaggery intellectual, so you should see that. But, as long as we're talking about swagger, I'll also throw in a picture of Caleb looking a swagger. Oh my gosh. Man, Caleb has got the vibe, I gotta say. With the hip kick right here, yeah, he's got the vibe. Anyway, as of now, the atom bomb is not diffusible, so my strategy is try to chuck it out into space where I don't have to deal with it. So I'm like, let's just not accept simplicity, instead of being like, how do we fix simplicity? Because it's a lot easier to distance yourself from the problems than fix them. However, I'm not even sure I can distance myself from simplicity, so we'll see what ends up happening. After that, we went to a beer place, where everyone got drinks except for me because I'm underage, and it was an interesting conversation. I think Alan and I and Liam have convinced Noah to finally watch an anime, namely Fate Unlimited Blade Works. So that's exciting. Hopefully he actually does it, and the plague of animes can spread further. I must cite Joe as a source of the disease, though, I must say. He is perhaps an ungodly human being, perhaps the bringer of great joy, but whatever he is the cause. After that, I went back to work, and I did not get fired, as aforementioned, and then I did the Chem Lab of Death, which was, not actual death, but just death in spirit. And then I did homework for a long time, as the usual practice of Wednesdays. And then me and Caleb played Halo in the night. And then finally, oh my gosh, finally, we finished the Halo 1 campaign. Man, we've been working through that campaign for so long. I mean, we were playing on Legendary difficulty, aka the hardest difficulty possible, so this explains why we took so long. But we finally finished it, and I was happy. Thursday, I got juiced once more, and was late for class because the juicing took forever. And apparently on Thursday, it just takes ages. And it's ridiculous how long it takes just to get through the line. And anyway, after that, I did a really painful lab, the optics lab before mentioned, and then that was probably the worst lab so far. You're supposed to put your eye in this particular position so you can see this like virtual distance of an image, and it was so hard to do. I don't know how people are supposed to do that consistently. So yeah, lab of death, and then I got home and had a New Zealand call with William and Mark, which was good to catch up with him, but I might have turned into a partial debate about Eternal Conscious Torment because, I enjoy that topic, it's interesting. And I came up with a really interesting argument about The View, and they'd never rebuttal. So it was cool to feel that argument for the first time and see how it goes. After that, we caught up and we talked about life a bit, and then we talked about how likely is we'll get to New Zealand. And the answer was not. Unfortunately, I think New Zealand's borders are closed until April 30th, so we are super screwed. I guess that's a tangent I should go on. So yeah, as things stand, me and Ben can't come to New Zealand this semester. I mean, your guys' summer, our winter. And that's because New Zealand will open its borders to non-citizens until April 30th of 2022. At least as their plan is right now. So, yep, that is really unfortunate. Unfortunately, the only other time I could come would be in conflict with my Virtue Retreat, which I'm going on with the squad. So yeah, unless things change, me and Ben literally cannot enter the country. Well, legally. Which, is a question. So yeah, that's a really big sad. And I'm very, sad that is the situation we're in. But aside from depressing news, nothing. It's just depressing. There's no action aside from depressing news. There's just bad news. There's the good and the bad news, and there's just bad news. So yeah, upon talking about that depressing news, I then did homework, and then me and Joe watched some My Hero Academia, which we still haven't finished. Thereafter, more work and more school, and a bit of homework, before doing a bunch of college stuff, because I'm trying to, apply to all the colleges. And so far I've got CSU and South Dakota Mines in the bag, aka they've accepted me. And I know that all the application stuff for the scholarships in South Dakota Mines are done, but I still need to get through the CSU scholarships. So yeah, after doing the scholarship stuff, I then went and watched The Eternals with Michael, and it was meh. I mean, at this point, live action movies are entertaining, but not interesting for me. If I want to watch something interesting, I watch an anime. That's not always true. There are a few movies you're like, I'm actually intrigued, but animes are intriguing often, unless they're Kuma Bear. So that's why I'm not super down for movies. But I was willing to do it because I wanted to hang with Michael. And our seats were also stolen, so that was kind of a chain reaction. Whoever starts that chain reaction deserves to spend 10 extra days in purgatory, if there's purgatory. Because it's super evil, because if you steal someone else's seats, then they have to steal someone else's seats as well, and just keeps on going. So yeah, after that, I went to sleep. The next day I woke up and I flew to California because it was Jonathan's wedding, and thus my whole family was going to California, because wedding, so I joined them. And man, I was hopping on the plane for the first time in 3 years or something. It felt kind of normal because I've done it so many times, but it was kind of cool too. I had some pictures of a plane wing and terrain, which is mildly interesting. And then we landed in California after I went on said trip. And we got this little tiny rental car. And oh my gosh, it was so small! We also listened to high-pitched anime music during the whole thing, which was surprisingly fitting the car as we drove to the hotel, and it was pretty great. You can see us all switching the car through a picture Ben took if you want. Upon reaching the Sketch Hotel, we all hung out and talked in a interesting area, and it was a good family experience. And here's a picture of our oversized table. We had a bunch of Chinese food, or maybe it's Korean food, I don't know. After that, me and Ben drove, and we went to King Supers to get some food. We also took Sam, which was an interesting experience. So Sam was with us when we had the whole dude that's I'm stealing this and announced and left. So that was interesting. And then after that, us three went down to this pier, but Dad got super nervous because we were kind of in a sketch gangster town. And it wasn't sketchy, the pier. Pier was actually super legit. But unfortunately, we didn't get to hang along because Dad was I'm freaking out. We found this tree lamp. A lamp with a tree. More like a tree with a lamp. I don't know. And we kind of sat in it, and it was a really cool treat. So yeah, we talked for a bit, and then we walked home, and we slept. Or at least attempted to sleep. I do not sleep well in hotel beds. I'm just going to say it. They suck. The next day was the wedding, which was mostly boring, I'm not going to lie. I was recruited to be part of the food preparation, which was a huge mistake. Which, Jonathan would have been aware of if he knew my level of cooking skill. And I was also in charge of making mac and cheese, which Joe knows I'm very good at. So yeah, those cooking with Korean classes, though, did pay off. So I, was able to do my job adequately. In between the ceremony and the preparation, me, Ben, and Sam walked around the neighborhood, and it was pretty cool because, the venue was in a nice neighborhood. And there was a lot of, dancing after that, which I didn't go to because it was dancing. I kind of sat on the wall. But I do have a picture of said dancing in the wedding. So there you go. If you want to see it, another wedding. Don't you feel special? After that, we kind of just sat around, and then we left. Ben had drove all the way to California, so he had to drive home, and he took Grandpa with him. But me and the rest of the family spent another half a night at a hotel before, beginning our trek home via airplane. And yeah, it was a short trip. We got back, after 2 days, so the whole trip was like 2 days long, and we got to see everyone again. It was cool. We got home at like noon or something, and I really wanted to sleep rather than go to chem class. But I knew that if I slept, I would have to wake up at like 10. I wouldn't have to. I would just end up waking up at like 10, at night. And then I'd have to go the whole night without sleep, and the sleep deprivation process all over would just begin all over first try. And so, yeah, I decided to stay awake and be a responsible human being. I did a bunch of homework after that, and, because missing that weekend, it kind of piled up. So it was a bit of a big oof. And then everyone came over to my house for a Brawlhalla battle, where, like, they invited themselves. I didn't really invite them, they just came over, which that's kind of standard practice at this point in time. And then I joined in reluctantly, because I was tired. But I was like, well, I don't have anything else to do. Joe I'm not sure let is the right word, but we'll go with it. He let me drink some of his mosh, which was already half drunk. And he never actually explained how it was half drunk or how long ago. But nevertheless, I did drink it because I was super sleep deprived, and the mysterious, caffeine power of Monster was very powerful. So yeah, I'm kind of going to assume it was empty for normal and non-suspect reasons. Anyway, I kicked people out early, and it was a decent amount of sleep I got that night. The next day I went to work and went to physics class. Also, my phone had begun to exhibit symptoms of impending death, so I started looking for a new one. I then attended Ratio Christi, which was bueno, and we discussed many things. I tried to kill the need for simplicity, but Alan thought, it's pretty necessary, so he defended it, and that's basically how it went. I then brought Alan, Liam, and Joe back to my house for a good anime guessing game, which Ben joined in on us with. And then Alan pulled up this really funny old anime video, which was pretty funny, but I was like mildly amused while Joe and Ben were dying on the floor. Holy cow, they were absolutely destroyed. So yeah, we did that until the night, and then I arose for the next day. I then did work, did a chem lab, and then I did homework for like 6 hours, which is painful. Man, it's painful. And then I played Halo with Caleb for like 4 hours, which was less painful. The next day I got juice once more, and I barely made it to front range on time for my big physics test because of the aforementioned super long line of plasma donation, but then I forgot my notebook and my calculator. So I had to go all the way back home. And yep, I ended up getting there 30 minutes late, which is a maximal big oof. However, I did succeed on finishing the test in time, so, at least there weren't any serious repercussions in the end. Anyway, I got home, and then I did homework until like 10:30. The next day, I did work and went to school. And then I did homework as per usual. But after that, I went to an impromptu birthday party for Alan and Liam at Love and Laser Tag. And that was really fun. I did get the best score consistently, so, proud brag. And then we all played Minecraft, like, dungeon game. Basically, there was this arcade game. It was actually super fun. Definitely gonna do that again. Basically, what it was like is you had 4 stations with, like, the classic... What's that called? Like, it's not a joystick, is it? I don't know. It has a little round thing on the top. Yeah, anyway. There was, like, 4 of those, and you got to all play Minecraft and go through a dungeon. But not like you couldn't build anything, you just fought. But it was still interesting. Anyway. After that, we all went and ate at Buffalo Wild Wings, which I ate ridiculously overpriced mac and cheese. Oh my gosh, it was so small and so expensive. But yeah, it was a good time, and I'm glad I'm friends with those guys. So, yeah, we celebrated Alan and Liam's birthday party, and then I came home, and I found Joe and Caleb crashing in my basement, so we played a tiny bit of this old video game called Tank Trouble, which is kind of legendary. And, yep, everyone left about 2 in the morning, and I slept for like 12 hours, because I could. I then woke up and took my chemistry test of death before doing most of this voice typing for this last email. And then I may or may not have played Minecraft for a copious amount of time. We didn't talk about that. And then I did more Minecraft the next morning. But I'm building this really fancy castle in the Ratchet Christi survival world, and you can see why I'm 10% addicted, because it's so cool. You should stare at it when you have the time. I then played D&D with the group. See, it's the group now. I did dishes and played some Bang, and then rounded out the night with some Smash Bros, as is our custom. The next day, something mildly interesting happened that worked. Namely, I began to clean up the water jet, and it all went well. I didn't get done in one fell swoop, because, I only had an hour and 30 minutes to work on it. But honestly, I think that way is kind of better, because it gives your arms a chance to catch a break before going back at it. So yeah, anyway, I did that, and then I went to chem class, and I did homework, and then I went over to Caleb's house, where Joe, Noah, Ben, and Caleb and I all played HeroScape, which is actually a really cool game. Kind of like, the tabletop part of D&D without the roleplay, but with action figures. And something I could definitely see myself getting into if it wasn't so expensive. So yeah, I didn't win, but, I did pretty well, and I lasted longer than Joe, so that makes me happy. And Caleb, ha! I beat both my 2 rivals. And though Caleb's the real rival. Joe's just like a vicarious... See, Joe would be the rival if it wasn't the case that Joe won so many times. If Joe was just worse, at games, then he would be my rival. But Caleb, it's like feasible to beat him in a semi-frequent manner, so he's my rival of choice. Anyway, my nemesis, that's what we should call that. Noah did end up taking the win, even though he never played Heroescape before, so I was kind of salty, because I was like, I should have won that, because I had a fancy archer, but oh well. After that, I finished cleaning up the Warjet, and I spent a bit of time vacuuming my room and the basement before heading out to physics class. I then had a long meal with Anime to Go. Hey, I maximally used my time well. Before going on Fresh Christie, we were trying to fix the atom bomb simplicity, and we may have made some progress. We'll see. The following morning, I did my homework, and I did work. I was, pretty tired. And, yep, the day went pretty uneventfully, actually. I then proceeded to sleep for 11 hours, which was lovely. And then I got juiced in the morning. Well, late afternoon, but I woke up after doing homework for physics class. And then I did more homework upon getting home. And then I played a lot of Minecraft, which was, pretty good. And then we watched Megamind with the family, which I gotta say is a really well done movie. Like, they did Megamind well. And then I hit the sack. The next morning marked a monumental beginning to the Thanksgiving trip to Texas. So, see, the Macy's, some family friends you might remember, invited us to spend some time in their new beach house in Texas, which of course we couldn't turn them down because, beach house. So the plane ride went smoothly, a bit boring because, it's a plane ride. But I did buy this book about the immune system called Immune. Whoa, so creative, I know. Which I started reading, and it's by this guy who helps produce this YouTube channel, which you might have heard of called, Cursicot. I can't pronounce it. And basically, they just read peer-reviewed, papers on sciencey things and turn them into informative videos. So it turns out that the guy running this YouTube channel wrote a book about the immune system, and of course they advertised, and I was like, you know what? I'll buy that. So it was actually really good. Super simple and easy to read, and I also learned a ton. So I am now pretty smart about the immune system. So yeah, I started reading that, and I read that book intermittently throughout the trip. Once we got there, it was a decently long drive to the beach house, but we made it intact. However, the meat started tasting weird, and not in a good way. I don't know what's up with that, but it's still been happening ever since that point. So yeah, that's been really unfortunate. I've heard it's like a thing that happens when your taste buds start recovering after COVID, but I don't know. Anyway, we did a lot of things, and I don't really remember them in order, so I'll just list the important stuff we did as it comes to mind. Ben and I had our biannual deep conversation, which was pretty darn good. I had a good conversation with Mamilia, which was definitely well worth it. After that, we rode in the golf cart at night, and we pumped music. And then Ben and I raced the golf cart, and we lost because, it was a golf cart. But I did beat Ben, though just barely. I'm a little bit faster than him. And then we chilled on the rooftop patio for quite a bit. And, me and Ben tried to sleep up there, but we ended up just waking up in the middle of the night because it was so humid. And it also got kind of cold. And then we played a lot of the card game called Unstable Unicorns. That game is legendary. If you haven't played Unstable Unicorns, you need to play Unstable Unicorns. It's such a good game. We went swimming in the ocean. Ben beat me in a, juggling contest with a soccer ball. Not like hand juggling, but foot juggling. But it was close. I did actually do pretty well. We watched some movies, introduced them to anime, watched the parents get tipsy, and yeah, all that kind of fun vacation stuff. And it was a good time, and a well-needed break. Once we flew back, I was pretty tired and on little brain power, so I played some Minecraft when I got home, and then I did some Frisbee golf with Joe, Caleb, and Ben, of which I won, might I add. By a wide margin. Unbeatable margin. There's no way that Joe could have ever come back. I just had it in the bag. We then played some Halo and had a family dinner at the James' house. Nope, false. And then we had dinner at the James' house with their family and the legendary Jonathan, who I personally think is overrated, but oh well. After that, we played some murder trivia Jackbox games, and then we all went to bed. The following day, I was feeling pretty sick, so I didn't do much. I worked, which was pretty death. I probably shouldn't have done that. Then I did a bit of homework before doing this live demo and playing lots of Minecraft. The next day, also known as yesterday, was Thanksgiving, and unfortunately I felt pretty trash. However, I did manage to buckle down and get some work done on my formal chem lab report, because I've been putting that off for ever. So I worked for 5 hours straight, and it was painful. I then had Thanksgiving dinner with the family and started feeling a bit better, and we finally ran out the night by watching A Knight's Tale, which is actually a pretty good movie. Not bad. As for today, well, I woke up and I worked on this live demo. Okay, by the way, my recording this, by the time I'm recording this, today is so far gone. But oh well. In the middle of the live demo thing, me and Ben sojourned to Caleb's house, and we, browsed Black Friday deals. I got a new pair of headphones because my old ones were dying, and I wanted new headphones, as well as a phone later on. And, I have to point out one more thing. So, I have got a Samsung, not an Apple. And I will admit that in recent years, my evidence for Samsung has dwindled, but they're still better than Apple, just not by as much as a long shot I thought they were before. False, actually. I have not got a Samsung. I have got an Android, and for some reason that's so hard for me to remember. Anyway, I got a new phone, and it's an Android, but I haven't used it yet because I'm waiting until I make a case. And Caleb thinks he can make a better case than me, but he can't because I'm me. So we're going to make a competition, and I'm going to win. And maybe I'll post that, actually. I'll show you guys. So yeah, that is the end of my tirade. Tirade? That's better. That's the end of my tirade. Tyrannical reign. We'll go with that. And the last email is now officially over. Hopefully, I will be more timely in future cases, but this one is really late. So, yep, there you go. Thanks for listening. Bye.
I guess the only thing I can do is learn from it and trust that it's worth it to keep